My name is Juliana Olayinka. I am a broadcast journalist based in London. I consider myself, or I call myself, a British-Nigerian. I think most people probably know me from being, shall we say, the face of Channels TV. This is the story behind the headlines. I've been running the Channels TV London office for about 5 years now. I've actually been doing this for about 20 years, believe it or not. I started out as an investigative reporter, so I worked across mainstream newsrooms in the UK, so we're talking BBC, Sky News, Bloomberg, Reuters, Channel 4, but I think I always was interested, or I had a keen eye on stories that affected Africa and more specifically Nigeria. And I think it was from there that I was discovered by Nduka Obangbena, who is the owner of Arise TV. In fact, Nduka was the first person to put me in front of a camera, so I do owe him a lot. He saw something in me really early. And I then worked for TVC in London, which was kind of the first time I heard of or got familiar with the name, or shall we say the brand, Tinubu, or the Jagaban, as a lot of people used to say back then. So yeah, that's kind of me.
In just under 2 months, Africa's most populous country will be choosing a new president.
Activities leading up to the 2023 general election are in top swing.
The 2023 presidential election campaign captured the heart and soul of the diaspora.
Nobody scare you! Stay where you are and vote!
We must leave no stone unturned in our quest for a new and better Nigeria.
We will do more. No great conflict.
We promise to empower your businessmen to expand their businesses.
All of the presidential candidates were in the British capital city at one point or another, really to sell their manifestos, and that is something that I captured, and it wasn't just speeches at Chatham House or events in the House of Commons. There were also gatherings with pretty prominent leaders. So it was really tense because at that time, it was all to play for. Nobody knew who was going to remain victorious.
There are two candidates, Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president and the others.
He's not new, they know him, they know what he can do, and he's capable and able, and he's on top of his own game.
Given his 8-year stint in Lagos and the difference he's brought, conquering the Atlantic Ocean, increasing the prosperity agenda for the entire Lagosians, and I think Nigeria will just give him a perfect platform.
Where there is support, there is also naysayers. What would you say to those Nigerians who are yet to make up their mind about whether or not you should be Buhari's successor?
I want to hurry them quickly to the appeal, and they should get their PVC ready and vote for me. I'm not campaigning for any other person but for myself and my party. And that is what I want. And if you've not made up your mind by now, please do so.
Tinubu Bola Ahmed of the APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
And the Electoral Commission there has announced the governing party candidate Bola Tinubu as the winner.
Bola Tinubu has secured victory.
Bola Tinubu of the ruling party APC in Nigeria has been declared the winner.
I think post 2023 presidential election, the mood music was really low. Really, really low. And I think it's really important to point out that a large part of the country were very pleased that Bola Ahmed Tinubu emerged leader.
On your mandates we shall stand. On your mandates, on your mandates, on your mandates we shall stand.
But there was a significant part of the country that they were not happy.
The process is not over because it is faulty. Results were not uploaded, and if those results were not uploaded, we are definitely going to contest the authenticity of whatever presentation is being made here.
No more election rigging. No. This particular election will be challenged through the democratic means with our level of agitation at the same time in the court of law.
Nigerian youths are angry. The results they saw was a reflection of the anger of Nigerian youth. They should not push us to the wall.
That anger, that tension could be felt everywhere.
Jide, between you and your God, knowing you will meet him one day, did Tinubu win the election?
I swear to Almighty God, Tinubu won the election. If Tinubu rigged the election in northern Nigeria, where the bulk of the votes are, do you think they will be silent the way they are silent? How come these protests are limited to only a part of southern Nigeria, just a very small part of southern Nigeria?
That was the strength of feeling that you were one or the other. It was disputed in the Court of Appeal. It went to the Supreme Court. I think at the time he was possibly the most Googled person on the internet. You just couldn't get away from it.
Having associated myself with that reasoning and the conclusion, I have no hesitation whatsoever in dismissing the appeal. Appeal dismissed.
Well, despite the opposition believing they had a credible case, ultimately at the Supreme Court, Bola Ahmed Tinubu remained victorious.
On your mandate, Bola, on your mandate, Bola, on your mandate, we shall stand.
And he was able to use that mandate to take brand Nigeria across the entire globe. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is now president. I was in Eagle Square actually on the day of his inauguration, and as usual, I don't like people saying no to me. So I did manage to get right inside the presidential box, believe it or not. And that was quite interesting, actually, because, of course, you get to see friendships, past friendships, bickering, inside information. And it was a transition because, of course, so many of the people I was familiar with were leaving with former President Buhari and Vice President Osinbajo. Many people I knew and had become allies, and now you're trying to create and forge new allies. So that was very, very interesting.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I will discharge my duties and perform my functions honestly.
I go back to London. Lo and behold, there is a State House press release saying that the president will indeed be attending Emmanuel Macron, the French president's Paris Climate Summit. And I looked at it and I said, Juliana, you know, Paris is 2 hours away on a Eurostar. There is absolutely no reason for you not to go. And I did that, and my goodness, you know, it was a very interesting time, shall we say. Paris in the summer is always a great idea. I don't know why I was so lucky. Stone's throw away from London. I think Paris Fashion Week was going on, and as to be expected, the president is staying in the best hotel in the city. It was really nerve-wracking because although I have used the camera myself before, I don't usually use the camera. And I think a lot of people were expecting when they see Juliana Olayinka to be only asking the questions, not holding a camera, asking the questions. So it was really, really stressful. There was a couple of gaffes, unfortunately. I don't think at the time the president's personal media team were fond of me. In fact, I know they weren't. They tried to kick me out several times, which was a running theme of all of the trips I've been on. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was invited by French President Emmanuel Macron to attend the Climate Finance Summit. Of course, this is really important because the planet's warming up. Africa have contributed barely anything to climate change, yet we can see from extreme weather patterns that we're bearing the brunt. So this was a really important event for him to show up and show out. Albeit fun, still really, really stressful. Unfortunately, you find that you get information from Nigeria very, very late. So by the time I was invited to Paris, registration had closed. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to actually get into the summit. I think the president had a lot to prove during that Paris trip. There was still lots of anger back home at him becoming leader. This was the first time he was going to be representing the country abroad.
Jos is boiling, Plateau is boiling, Ondo is boiling. Abuja is now being circled by bandits. A president who will be preoccupied as to how to address this situation is going to France.
Things happening in different parts of the country that borders on insecurity, terrorism. Mr. President should be able to pay on the spot assessment and visit to these places, not leaving the country.
For geopolitics, climate change is really, really important. This was also the first time that the president was interacting and engaging with the diaspora, who we knew from the campaign were the most vocal when it came to calling him out on some of those pretty serious allegations. And so I think there was a lot of nervousness.
Nigeria is now the focus globally of investors. Corporates, financial institutions all over the world are now very excited about Nigeria, and specifically about the fast-paced, dynamic, progressive policies, economic policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the last 3 weeks.
It kind of felt that we were in an organized, chaotic administration that was being led by somebody who at least had lived abroad. So I think when the president was speaking to the diaspora, he was speaking from the heart.
We must promote unity, stability, and economic justice for every one of us.
Paris is a beautiful city, but at times it was a beautiful nightmare. You know, you are not given the heads up. You're told 3 things at once. You can't get any access, and you're the only woman. However, and I think, it's really important to emphasize that this was a transition, and I was able to, in a very short window, meet with and sit with some really critical players of the administration. And although they were wary of me, I think once they could see themselves on the news, they realised that, okay, she's not a blogger, no offence to bloggers, But you know, this is the real deal.
Look at me, Cam. There's no time, so I'm editing in the car. That's the president's spokesperson, Minataxi. I can't tell you how much I've spent. Look at me, look at my hair, look at my lips. I've been up for like 14 hours now.
New York City, the city that never sleeps. I kid you not, I did not sleep during that trip. So where do we start? United Nations General Assembly. We've got the president closing the NASDAQ on the New York Stock Exchange. We have the Nigeria Business Investment Roundtable and a slew of bilateral meetings. It was a jam-packed agenda. Goodness me, the arrival, always so much drama. You can't ask too many questions as a journalist because they're always suspicious. Day one, awaiting the president's arrival, I was actually given inside information on where the president was staying. And I'm there waiting for the president. I'm being told from people who are in his convoy that he's 5 minutes away. Nobody is there. And then find out he's going 20 minutes away to meet with some people from the diaspora.
Our bound in Nigeria.
We need you back home. Nigeria has arrived. Forget the frustration of previous years of leadership.
I rush there in an absolute panic, get there, and the meeting is finished.
But I don't know who they are, and they would
To describe the Nigerian entourage at the New York Stock Exchange as wild is a complete understatement. It was absolutely crazy. So the adrenaline is racing because this is a deadline, right? You know, the New York Stock Exchange has got to close at a certain time. And I've got the tripod and I'm kind of, you know, everything is recording, but I'm kind of shoving my way into the front. Honestly, you just had to be there to feel the atmosphere. You know, it was really jam-packed. The lights were shining. The clock was counting down. The president was so squashed because there were so many people that wanted to be in that iconic shot. And I've got to say, you know, I did feel really proud. I felt proud to be Nigerian. It was certainly one of the great highs of that trip. The Nigeria Business Roundtable in New York was important. This was my first opportunity to actually see how the president conducts himself with the business community, and I was pretty impressed.
Nigeria is not a wicked lady. What is wrong with purpose in the past is consistency in policy, lack of consistency, double taxation, corrupt, not-shared exchange rate. What are we lacking? The courage and leadership in the right direction.
And the feedback, which is essential, was really good.
A man that had a track record of transforming a subnational through a combination of public and private sector initiatives. In President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I can confidently say that we now have a businessman as the president of Nigeria.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think it's an honor, right, at this very important time to also be here with Mr. President. And it will be nice for us to see him join his other colleagues worldwide to share his vision, to put a clear template of what he hopes to achieve for the country, even in a gathering, you know, like this.
Tomorrow, Mr. President will make his address, which of course I believe It will be very emphatic, and he has already done a lot so far.
I extend a hand of friendship to all of you who may genuinely support this mission for a democratic governance. What we seek is an equal, firm commitment to partnership. We seek enhanced international cooperation with African nations to achieve the 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals.
The president spoke very clearly yesterday on why Nigeria should become the new center for business in Africa, and why Africa should not be pitied or should be seen as a disadvantage, but rather a solution for the present and the future.
I'm delighted to say he has sent us a video message, and even more importantly, his daughter Fatima.
The award is special to me, given that it recognizes global leaders within the public, private, and non-profit sectors who inspire others through their ability to turn vision into impact.
Well, it's important to my father. He's somebody that puts in his all and giving back to the society. So it's a great honor and pleasure for him to see that his work it's being recognized right here in New York by the Concordia Summit.
Did I cry in New York? Yes, I did cry, because there was a lot of stress, a lot of pushback. I can remember being kicked out, not of the room, of the floor of the president, because apparently there were too many journalists and my name wasn't on the list. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, for the Saudi Arab Africa Investment Conference and the Saudi-Nigeria Investment Roundtable. Wow is all I can say. This was a really important moment for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The Saudi-Nigeria Business Roundtable was really important. I think this was kind of the third or fourth time the president had left the country, and Nigerians wanted to start seeing the dividends of these trips.
Positive partnership that will drive Africa. The navigation of the ship of this nation depend on this membership, and I assure you, sky is not only the limit, but a destination for prosperity of our people.
It's quite interesting because when you travel with the president, everybody calls him the chief marketing officer. But I think for the first time in Riyadh, you actually saw the strength of his cabinet. You know, the hall was so big that all of the ministers and governors who accompanied the president had to speak on his behalf. And I think they did quite a decent job.
Today was a very important day for us, for the business community in Saudi Arabia and for the business community in Nigeria. The purpose of the meeting or the roundtable was for the president, our president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to reassure the investment community that Nigeria is ready for business, we are open to business, and to assure them that the reforms that he's carrying out will improve the ease of doing business.
Traditionally, there has been a lot of mistrust, a lot of trust deficit between Nigerian businessmen and Saudi businessmen, because there was no platform for both sides to understand and feel comfortable with doing business with the other party.
The Arab world is blessed with riches, and they are looking to invest. They're looking for long-term investment opportunities that will help them to keep earning and keep having funding even when oil revenues dwindle. And on that basis, Africa, and Nigeria in particular, is a veritable home for such investment funds.
I believe this government is doing a lot with the reform that they have already brought. We need to come and showcase people. And you can see the way that people have applauded the Nigerian delegation that have come for this conference. This has demonstrated that we have the capacity. It's just for us to come and show people and demonstrate that.
I think the most important thing is Nigeria today, we understand what we want, how we want it, and we are dictating the pace of engagement with the outer world. And one of it is what we see today, Mr. President sitting with the Crown Prince and discussing bilateral issues that's got to do with both Saudi Arabia and Nigeria in a mutual, over 6 decades of mutual relationship.
I think when I was in Riyadh, I think at least, no exaggeration, 5 times a day I'd be like, what's the point, Juliana? Why are you doing this? You know, they're not picking up the phone. You have no idea what time this event is going to take place. Nobody wants to speak to you. There is no point. And, you know, when you're carrying a camera on your back, you know, still trying to look decent, because of course you've got to show up and, you know, look the part. And there are some days where you do feel really down, really depressed. You know, it's not as glamorous as you think. It is a massive sacrifice. And there are times when you question if putting yourself through this is even worth the pain. Berlin, November 2023, obviously in the city of Europe's largest economy, really important because Olaf Scholz was the first foreign leader to visit Tinubu in Nigeria. The G20 Compact with Africa Summit was good. It was a much smaller event than what we had witnessed in New York City, but there appeared to be the same crowd. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu spent a lot of time with other African leaders. And to be honest, I kind of feel as if he thrives in that environment.
Nigeria is a stable democracy. We are forming the economy based on the principle and philosophy of good governance.
The Compact with Africa is a G20 initiative, which initially consisted of 12 countries. Nigeria was not a part of it, but because of the personal rapport that has been struck by Chancellor Scholz and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we're here today. Nigeria is participating in the discourse.
We've discussed on a lot of areas of interest. I think they're more interested in establishing processing of facilities in Nigeria, so that will help us with industrialization policy of our Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Well, this is a compact with Africa led by the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. And of course, it's all about helping with the investments into Africa, and it's critical that Nigeria is here.
The importance of this G20 vis-a-vis compact with Africa is to help in reforming investment, reforming doing business with African countries.
It's a way of deepening international cooperation, trade collaboration and partnership of the German government with the countries in Africa.
I almost felt as if I was finally being accepted in Berlin. The president said hello on a couple of occasions, which was quite nice. Yes, I was close enough for him to say hello to me. And I was becoming less suspicious, shall we say. Dubai for COP28, I think the headlines really speak for themselves, don't they? Dubai, lots of bright lights, flashy hotels, flashy cars, very similar to New York City, but not. But in terms of the experience, the pressure, the stress, the crowd, the excitement, it certainly felt like I had seen this scene play out before.
I think one of the major aspects of what's been accomplished at COP28, of course, was the signing of the accelerated performance agreement between the federal government of Nigeria and Siemens Energy, which obviously has to do with the end-to-end modernization of Nigeria's electric power transmission grid.
March 2024, we are in Doha for an official state visit with the Qatari government. Another trip, another controversy. Was the president invited? Are the Qataris interested in doing business with us? That was another quest that I had to discover.
First, I want to especially thank the King of Qatar for extending this very important invitation to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Qatar at the moment is the fastest growing economy globally, and therefore they are extremely important.
Am I allowed to be honest? I think I've got to be honest. Doha was the most tense I've seen the administration since inauguration. It really felt as if there was a lot to prove and there was a lot on the line. The Nigerian economy.
Nigeria's annual inflation rose to its highest level in nearly 2 decades.
In official trade, the value of the Nigerian naira fell to its lowest level ever.
But when something comes like this, nobody feel buy anything. We are fed up.
Barely 2 weeks ago, residents of Minna, the capital of north-central Nigeria's Niger State, took to the streets, hoping for some relief.
You see the way people are begging. Your family members, even the little you are having, to share is a problem.
All the farmer, they sell all the chicken now. Sorry, the food is too cost.
The content felt more serious in Doha because I understood the mood music on the ground back home. Nobody wanted to see the president abroad. Nobody wanted to see their minister or governor attending another international event. So every single thing that was captured had to have meaning. I knew it and they knew it too. There were plenty of tears in Doha, especially when I wasn't allowed to enter the main summit until the 11th hour.
I'm literally fucking struggling right now.
I had offended somebody, and lo and behold, the gentleman who I had offended was the organizer of the event, and my name wasn't on the door.
First of all, we welcome the President today among us of Nigeria. I am Hamel Kouari, Vice Chairman of Qatar Chamber, and we've seen big potential in two sides. And we've been looking for this opportunity to come, and today we've seen this real opportunity.
It is very obvious that the Qataris will work with us. We're already engaging to make sure that we can bring those capital that is required into our country and into our industry, and ultimately supplying energy to the markets.
What this has shown that the private sector in both countries indeed can come together and also bring our people together through investment. I felt that it's very important for us to come and support the present administration. People doesn't know what we have, and we're here to come and showcase what we have with a large amount of mineral resources in Nigeria.
It is important not only to support the president, but to also show that we bought into his vision, his strategy, his patriotism, his hard work and dedication for the Nigerian nation and the Nigerian people. He's selling Nigeria not only to the Qataris, but to the world.
Qatar Olympic Sports Museum chose 90 athletes from around the world to honor, and I'm really honored that I'm the only Nigerian in the museum.
If you follow me on social media, not only am I shooting with the camera, but I also try and get a shot with the phone. But I realized anytime I was on an international trip, particularly as it got later in the year, that people started responding to the footage, but not in a positive way. A lot of the times when people were sending me messages, complaining, lamenting, I got it. As a journalist, I was there to cover the event, the story behind the headlines.